Hey everybody, thanks for joining the live stream. Before I go further, I'll just make sure, does the sound sound okay? I've got a bit of a scratchy throat, so I apologize. And so today we're going to walk through the issue forks and merge requests feature that's going on to Drupal.org, which is really exciting if you're a project maintainer. When you work with Drupal.org issues, for those who aren't familiar, you typically write patches, and those patches are just like what should be committed. You use git apply, or you can use the patch command to apply them. But when you go through the contribution flow, you generally will create interdiffs, which are the diffs between commits, and then also the patch. So that way you can show the differences between your work. And with modern workflows, this feels a bit outdated because now you have merge and pull requests in GitHub and GitLab. So they've been working to update the contribution workflow for Drupal.org, and that's what we're going to go through today with these issue forks and merge requests. This was rolled out earlier this week. They now have it open for opt-in for beta for issues to opt in on and allow you to create issue forks. Previously, maintainers could always create new Git branches and do their work in Git, but the hard problem was collaborators. You couldn't get any outside collaborators to make commits to those branches without also making them a maintainer. So this rolled out on the 17th. Right now we have Drupal Commerce and the Commerce API module installed with it, and we're going to demo some issue workflows with those. Currently, you cannot do full merge requests at the moment. You can just basically use this to replace the whole patch or the whole interdiff process. From my understanding with reading this, you still have to generate a patch manually to upload to Drupal.org, but you can still at least have Git workflow in one area and then communication in another. And I just want to publicly state that I really think the whole workflow with issues and pull requests and merge requests that everybody seems to love, I hate it. You have a conversation going on in the issue, and then you have a separate conversation happening in the work. And as commits happen, the issue begins to change, and so do the requirements, but the issue is never updated. I know that some folks see this workflow as kind of cumbersome and a lot of work with having to manually generate patches and interdiffs. But when you go to some of the larger issues, which I don't have one open, if you go to some of the larger issues, the story is the same. You have a canonical source of truth. You have the discussions and the work in one page so you can fully understand what is happening. We'll go through all these, how to work on an issue fork. Essentially, it creates a new repo. I believe it's using Git workspaces in the background. And then you can add that as a new remote and be able to push to that remote. You'll be able to create branches for each issue. And then when you do commits, you cannot do force push. And that is to prevent folks from deleting other people's work, basically. So they do have a nice warning here that if you accidentally commit any private information, API keys, tokens, you're better off just invalidating everything and then sending them a message asking them to see if they can remove that from the history. And then the next step after this initial work is the infrastructure team is working to get merge requests in GitLab to bubble up data to Drupal.org issues. And we'll start to see where that goes in. And one reason I'm also excited about this is at DrupalCon LA, the infrastructure team had a discussion on working on this. So this has been 4.5 years in the making, probably 5 now, to make it collaborative via Git, but still keep the Drupal contribution flow available. Okay, so I'm going to open up an issue, if I can remember which one it was. Okay, so I already went through this one here. So one thing we're going to try to do off the bat is see if we can take an issue, create a fork, and then update it from the GitLab web IDE. So GitLab, just like GitHub, has a user interface that lets you edit files, and now they've enabled that on Drupal.org. Again, it's something that maintainers have been able to do, but we're going to see what that would look like from here. So when you go to a project that has issue forks, you'll see a new tab right here. It says issue fork, and I'm kind of curious to see how this works. So I'm going to pop open the network tab, or the developer console, and we're going to look at the network tab, because I'm assuming it's either Drupal form API or it's purely JavaScript. So we're going to click on fork commerce. All right, so it is Drupal form API access going, but we'll see that when it came back, it did run a GraphQL request because GitLab uses GraphQL. So it did a query for the project. Again, I hate GraphQL, so it's like impossible to parse the actual request that happened here. Whoops, I opened the console. But it looks like it just fetched the data for the repo. And then in here, it fetched all the branches. So we don't have a branch yet. So we have the issue fork, but we need to create a branch for the issue. So let's go ahead and click on new branch and see what happens. Branch name. Fix, we'll call it fix. And that brings me to GitLab, which means that I need to go back to the issue to be able to properly make the fix. So if we were to refresh this now, we see that we do have the branch here, and clicking that brings us over to GitLab again, and it actually shows the last commit. So if you wanted to go see the last commit, you can browse that, which is from head, because we have not made a new commit on that branch yet. All right, so this issue is about adding a different user permission onto one of our views display plugins, or argument plugins rather. So we'll go work on that. So we have a custom views argument that is used to restrict the current user based on if they own the entity or they have the administrative access. So if we look in this code, so you select the admin permission. Oh wait, so maybe we don't need this because it is configurable. But we'll make a we'll give it a try anyways. So if I wanted to change this, let's see at the request, it should be restricted to view any commerce order instead of just the admin. So if we were to go in here, we're going to click on the web IDE. And let's say that we're a contributor who want to make this first patch or make this contribution. So we want to check if this current user has permission. It's kind of neat. It has the autocomplete just like in VS Code. Well, it's not real autocomplete, but the ABC autocomplete. So here we check if user has view commerce order, return true. There's actually reasons that this can't be committed and work, but I failed to properly triage the issue when I selected it for this demo, but we'll just go through this part right here. So we made the change. We want to support the view commerce order permission on top of the configured one. So we're going to click commit. Again, making sure we're on our issue fork right here. The commit message is support view commerce order permission. All right, we're going to hit commit and see what happens. Okay, so we now have our commits on this file. If I close the IDE, let's see what happens when I go to review. For the record, I am not a GitLab user, so the interface is still a bit new to me. Okay, if we go back to here, we're at the issue fork. Now, if I come back to the Drupal.org issue and refresh, I see that I have the commit now available. So if I were to go click on the commit, I see it right here. Now, currently I made a commit, but no information was committed or commented on Drupal.org. These are all things that are in the process of discussion, and I'll link to a few of those. That's outlined in this opt-in issue. They have links to various things that are what should be commented, what should be sent back to Drupal.org from GitLab. So what we'll do is we're going to create a patch to upload to Drupal.org. If GitLab works like GitHub, you can just add .patch to the end of the file. We're going to save that. I'm going to copy the node ID real quick. So I created a patch using the URL. I'm going to call it the issue ID. I'll say it's comment 3. As I believe it is comment 3.patch. And we're going to come mark it as needs review. Experimenting with issue forks and web IDE for contributing. All right. I'm going to actually put some note. I think this issue. So this issue is actually a won't fix, I think, because it's configurable and the view would bypass access checks for per customer. So we still have to take our patch and upload it. That's not our patch. There it is. So I actually have a patches folder that I put all of my patches in, and I realize you can't see it fanning out completely because of the YouTube chat and the webcam. I can just easily drag it and upload it when I do all my issues. All right, so I set it to needs review so that Drupal CI will run. I'm gonna hit save. And then that's pretty neat. That was able to make that change from the UI. If I go back to the branch, as a maintainer, if I wanted to see the work that was done, I could actually see, I could review the commits, and I should be able to, then I can browse it. I can go through some of the parents, view all the changes. If we made another commit, I would be able to see those as well. So that's pretty cool that you can now basically, as a contributor, write patches or create work without actually having to have Git installed locally or the project installed. This would have been crucial for the Drupal 9 readiness, where a lot of the Drupal 9 readiness work was not going to view all of this. Okay, we'll go here. Was essentially editing .info.yaml files and adding this line. So if we could have had this for the Drupal 9 porting weekend, oh man, I had 120 projects that I had to review, clone down, make the commit, upload the patch. The web UI would have been a lot easier to use then, and I probably could have used it, but I wasn't aware of it. But now that contributors can, small tasks like this and documentation inside code blocks will open the door for more contributors and lower the barrier to entry. All right. We're going to let that run in the back end. background, and I'm actually going to open another issue which a contributor has already created the commerce fork for. And this is to create a service for to miner and from miner units. For those who don't know what a miner unit is, when you have currency, we store currency in decimal format. But a lot of times, because floating math is hard, you actually send it in the like raw format. So it'd be like all zeros and you have to multiply it by 100. Can't use words right. But essentially this takes us from, allows us to multiply a number by 100 or divide it by 100 to get the miner unit or the non-floating point representation. Okay, so there were some patches on here, and it looks like Jacob has done what I did at the previous issue. He also made an inner diff where created the issue fork and then uploaded patches. So let's give this a try. Before I click get push access, or I'm guessing if you want to work on an issue, you have to click get push access, which must add you as a collaborator to that issue. So maybe that's why I'm getting that error there. That says I cannot pull or push via HTTPS until you create a person. Oh no, that's a different issue. All right, I'm going to get push access, and I'm going to get ready to clone. So I'm going to take this remote URL and I'm going to open my workspace. And before I get onto here, I'll answer Offer's question. So adding a patch to Drupal.org is still a manual upload right now. You still have to take the commit or the last bit of changes and then generate a patch and bring it to Drupal.org. I don't remember the exact details of what's going to be worked on, but I remember the old idea was being able to take the merge request and every time it changed, upload the patch to Drupal.org as a comment automatically. So that way the issue always has the latest patch instead of having to go find the merge request and then create the patch. But that was the old way, or that was what was talked about in like 2015 and a little bit of time after. I cannot remember exactly in the various issues what's going on there, but I will look into that and add that to the comment, to the video description, so that way we can share that and understand. Or Neil might be able to answer that in the live chat. All right, so back to this. I'm going to take the remote URL and I want to add this as a get remote. So I already have a commerce install or commerce repository that I use for my contributions, and I have the remotes for Drupal.org, my GitHub fork, and our organization GitHub fork. So I'm going to do get remote add. I'm going to copy this remote name. I'm going to copy this command, and I'm going to open a scratch pad real quick in here, so that way I can copy the commands that were needed and maybe provide some feedback, such as if there was a command that was shown not only to get to clone, but if it actually said, are you a maintainer? Here's how you can add a remote so you can pull this down. So I'm going to add that remote. I'm going to do a git fetch on that remote. So one thing I noticed is that Jacob actually made the commit on the 2.x branch in the issue fork, which feels odd because usually when you do a pull request, you should always do it on a separate branch so that we're not trying to merge in the main branch. So maybe one note we could make is that it'd be great if we always received a new branch for that issue. So it created the issue fork, but also created a branch off of the version specified. So if the issue version was 2.x.dev, take the 2.x branch and then make a branch off of it for the issue. So that way we don't have folks that are committing to the 2.x branch, because now when I check it out locally, I have to look up Git commands that I don't quite remember. So I think I should be able to do git checkout, and if I'm going to do git branch. I'm going to make a new branch off of that issue name and do git branch set upstream to commerce, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So if I do a git pull, oh, sorry, I need to check out that branch and do a git pull. There's no tracking it. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well then. Oh, that's why. It's right here. Head is behind. The commit was made before we made our last commit. Okay. And so if we look in here, there's actually a few commits. So what I should have done first is open the issue fork and looked at the commits that were made. Commits. Okay, so there are several commits that were made over the past few times, the past few days. So if we did so if I wanted to do it locally, like the old way, I would do a git diff against 8.2.x, but I can't because those merged up. Okay, so now I hit an accidental little roadblock. So if I want to go through, I'm going to just look at some of the commits and just see some of the changes. So like here, it grabs the service. One thing here, I could make a comment here, but this wouldn't bubble up to Drupal.org yet. So what I'm going to do is use this to kind of make a code review. So I'm going to go back over to this issue, and instead of using Dredditor, which is what I would normally use to review a patch, I'm going to look from the GitLab instance. So like in here, payment gateway base. Again, I'm looking at the old code, so this didn't give it quite a full picture. So what we'll do is can we even make a source compare? Okay. So I don't know how we can make an actual merge request against that, because it's probably been blocked off. Forked from Commerce project. And I don't know if one of the problems is the fact that this was made on the 2.x branch and not on a feature branch. And I might have messed up my... So let me just quick try to fix my local branch. So if I do git branch set upstream to Drupal.org 8.x git reset hard or git fetch prune. All right, let me do git fetch prune of Drupal.org. Git reset hard Drupal.org 8. Okay. Git log. Okay, I fixed my 8.x 2.x branch. Now if I check out, what's that issue number? So if I check back out my issue branch, okay, compare views just within one repo. It won't diff with upstream until you're drafting the merge request. Oh, okay. So let's just see real quick if I fixed my okay, there we go. I screwed up my local Git. That's why I couldn't do repair. So if you want to review via GitLab, we'll circle back to that once I actually make a draft merge request. But what I would probably still do for now, since merge requests aren't fully working, or fully incorporated, I should say, I would do this from my command line where I check out the branch and I run a git diff between the branches and kind of do like an inspection. You know, in here, okay, now we're actually injecting the converter. Before the initial patch, it was doing like a fetch from the static service. Here. So for backwards compatibility, it has it set to null. If it's not an instance of, this is a pattern that they do in core. Nice. We'll actually need to mark that as needing an update. So I'm going to copy that and go back to the issue. Good. So we released Commerce 2.20 yesterday for a VAT hotfix for Germany. And then I'll just quick scan through this a bit more because I don't need to do a full code review, because this should be just deleting a lot of dead code for a new service. Just quickly look at the service here. So it's getting the proper currency and converting the price amount to the non-floating point number. This taking the floating point number and putting it back to a decimal. Okay, I'm going to call that good enough. And I'm going to comment on here that we released Commerce 2.20, needs work, and then we're going to try creating a new patch. So I'm going to click save. All right. So we're going to make the commit locally this time instead of through the web IDE. So I'm going to find that file in Payment Gateway Base. We're going to change this to 2.20 and then do a git diff. Yep. Okay. Git commit AV. So I have a habit of using -AV because it does verbose output and lets you actually look at all the changes inside of your commit just as a double check. Change the version number. All right, let's give this a test push. So it'd be pushing to the commerce branch. Okay. Ooh. Oh shoot, I didn't need to push a new branch. I forgot I mapped mine locally. So I said to push my local branch to the 8.x 2.x branch. So here now it shows that it was updated. If we go back to this issue, it's loading the last commit, boom, we see that my commit is now on the issue and available. So let's create a merge request to generate the giant patch, the full complete patch. Okay, so let's see if I can do this right. So source, compare. It says there's nothing to compare. Let me reread Neil's comment real quick. Compare view is just within one repo and won't diff until you're drafting the merge request. I have no idea how you do a merge request in here. New. Okay, so maybe just merge requests are completely shut off. So I'm going to go back to my classic way of doing patches. So git diff 8.x.2.x gives me my full bit. So I'm going to then put it into my patches directory. And whenever you generate a patch, it's always good to put the next comment number in there for yourself or for anybody that gets issues. So in here, 10.patch. And just to show, I also have this tool called the Drupal.org CLI, which allows you to generate patches. So if I do Drupal.org issue:patch, it will actually read the node ID from the branch name. Oh, or not. Okay, so there's a bug there. So we'll just upload the patch. Here is the fix for the version name. And before I talked about needing to make interdiffs, which are the differences between each patch, we don't need to do that anymore because we can just take this link. Here's the change. And paste that. There's no need to create the file, but we will upload our new patch. And I need to make sure I put this back to needs review, and I'll hit save. All right, and I'm going to read the comments real quick to see if I can get this merge request going. Can compare with the commit hash of the last commit that was made in the main, from the git command. Yeah, so we have the patch created, and things are running up there now. And so that's what I had set up for the issue forks, making sure I didn't miss anything there. Nope. And so now I have the test running. We have the issue patches there. One thing that I would like to do is I'm actually going to open my Drupal.org command line, and I'm going to make support for issue forks. So Drupal.org, open up issue forks. I'm going to copy this in so that way I can try to help provide some tooling around this until we get more of the web interface added. I'm going to copy this command. You create an issue fork and fetch it via GraphQL, then locally add commands that help ease this. So I'll see if there's ways that I can help improve this, or help provide, not improve this, provide some tooling that works around it in the meantime. For example, if I were to do this the old way, with my tool I have here, I would copy the issue ID, and then I would go to my command line and say Drupal org issue apply, and this is going to fetch the issue over the Drupal.org API. It's going to create a branch and then apply it. So now I have, if I did git diff 8.x 2.x, I had the same output. If I did a log, it took the patch and created it for me. So what I would love to do is have support where this then takes the known issue fork, adds it as a remote, and checks out the issue branch. So that way you can do this along the way. Because again, when I type issue patch here, it creates the patch for me and it does the naming for you. So that way you don't have to like think about comment numbers and all that. So I'll see what I can do to get the CLI tool I wrote to help maintainers and contributors be able to work with issue forks along the way. It will not allow you to create an issue fork because the Drupal.org API is read only. It does not allow any authenticated actions, which is fine by me. And that's how issue forks work. So I'll give a second if anybody has questions. Otherwise, that's what I had to kind of demo through it. It's new. The features are coming forward, but already I think this is a step above a lot of what we had. The fact that Even this patch right here where I changed the version number, I could have just done that via the GitLab UI and then generated a patch for the issue. Looks like Neil says that they're hoping to have merge requests enabled for DrupalCon Global, which will be huge because DrupalCon, even though it's global, will probably still be a huge contribution effort, and that'll be pretty rad. So, I wanted to say thanks for coming. Hope you learned something new and you get to go try this out in some new contrib. Again, I will paste a link to this. I will set it again into the YouTube chat for anybody that's watching directly right now. If you come in here, you will be able to go through the list and see all of the various Drupal.org modules that now have this enabled. So if you want to go give it a try, contributing a patch, anything like that, there's a large list right here. As far as I know, there isn't a separate landing page that shows all the projects that are opted in. If I find out there is a way to get it over the API, it'll be available in this issue, which I will also share for folks that want to. If anybody wants to follow that issue, that's where I'll post some updates as I look into reading the Drupal.org API to be able to find projects that have issue forks and supporting them in a local workflow. So, thanks everybody. Go have a good Sunday the rest of the day, or enjoy your evening if you're over in a different time zone. Thanks.